Hello, everyone. Welcome to our quick intro session to our core skills course. We're going to talk about what core skills to being digital are and how our 6-week course can help you with gaining them. So first off, we're Be More Digital. So I'm Bobby, and we also have Sue and Alia on the call. And we're here to help you put into practice the advice and guidance around digital ways of working. And we do that through practical training, so lots of workshops, but also kind of coaching and facilitation to help you put that into practice with your teams as well. It all started back in 2019 when the Charity Digital Code of Practice was launched, and I was head of digital at Target Ovarian Cancer, and I was really looking to find a way of putting into practice all of these principles that we wanted to adhere to, and I couldn't quite find a place to do that, so I slowly started to do it myself, and then was joined by two other wonderful people to help me on the journey. But what do we mean by digital ways of working? There's a number of different kind of definitions, but one that I quite like, and one that mostly is agreed across the charity space and the non-profit space, is this one from Co-op Digital, which is kind of an improved and adjusted version from the government digital service, mainly because most people that were involved in both. But essentially, it's applying the culture, practice, processes, and technologies of the internet era to respond to people's raised expectations. And what we mean by that is there's a number of kind of project management methods and ways of working that people for the last 20 years have been taking, 30 years almost, have been kind of taking and developing to kind of improve how we work, but also make it simpler to kind of plan things and learn and improve. So being digital is about how you do everything, and this is where I really want to challenge you potentially. Quite often we think about digital as being digital fundraising or digital communications, and of course that has a big part of it, but actually being digital should also and is also a part of your chief exec's world, your operations team's world, your finance team's world, your policy team. Even if you're not doing digital things, you are working in digital ways. We are all using digital tools, and we can reduce the overwhelm of the way we work together by making the most of those tools, but also the kind of the mindset and approaches that are offered by this. It's a set of practices and behaviors that we need to adopt. It's that mindset thing, which I know some people find tricky, but that mindset is about a willingness to learn. So you being here today or watching this recording later shows that you're already starting to find that mindset. And it's that mindset that helps us to develop our own digital practices and put them into place. And this definition is kind of influenced by the Digital Cafe, which was written by, I've now forgotten her name, Cassie, forgotten her second name, but it's linked on the slides there. And just because it doesn't all have to be about digital, I wanted to bring this quote in from the Guilty Feminist, which just really resonated when I read it earlier in the year. And it's about confidence, and just to highlight that confidence is recognizing that there's nothing truly at stake, and that failure can be seen as gathering data. So sometimes doing something wrong doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. We tend to constantly fight for that perfection, and what working in digital ways teaches us is that we can always find something that's good enough, and if it's good enough, we can then improve it and find ways to make it better each time. So how does core skills help you do that? So it's not a magic wand. It's a 6-week course that introduces you to a number of these processes and sets you kind of on your way to trying to embed these into the way you work. And it's a full-time job. You know, I'm still doing it. Yesterday, I wanted to make significant changes to our course page and was reminded that you know, we need to work with this and iterate. So that's you know, sometimes your inner id comes out and gives you those guilty moments that you think it's not good enough or you're not quite ready. But this course, it helps you be comfortable with the unknown. So in our worlds, there's a lot that we don't know about. We've just spent 2 years trying to combat a global pandemic, midway through a cost of living crisis that was already beginning and burgeoning and has done over the last 15 years, plus an environmental crisis, and then global wars that are happening. You know, there's a lot of change, and we need to be comfortable to change our plans and adjust and quickly kind of move our approaches. What this course gives you is approaches and kind of a toolbox of ways and workshop ideas or ways of thinking that can kind of really help you approach the challenges and in a way that builds resilience and that doesn't burn you out constantly. So, as I said, it's based on the Charity Digital Code of Practice. And there are 6 main pillars that are kind of supported under this. You may have heard of kind of user research and being user-led. We say person-led because we fully believe that also the people that manage the services and manage the things that you're changing need to be included in the research. So when you're maybe changing a way of working or kind of a process of managing donations, you need to make sure that you've got information about how that will affect the team as well as how that will affect your donors. So being person-led is about more than just that front-facing view. It looks at the organization and how we can improve things for them as well. When we talk about working in iterations, that's kind of a cyclical approach. So looking at ways that we can continually learn from everything we've done. You know, adding in little moments to kind of capture those reflections and then turn those reflections into things to avoid in the future or things to grow from in the future. Being driven by evidence is about, you know, really understanding and listening to the people, but also to the data. So quite often humans lie. We don't mean to, we just do. We think we do things in different ways. So when you conduct people research and you kind of really observe and look at their behaviors, you can really understand the evidence. And then also what we want to do is look at the data as well. So when you've made changes, what do those changes show in the numbers? And are there ways that we can kind of really adjust our impact through the way that we're delivering things? The final 2 are probably the biggest 2, and they're 2 that as a sector we still need to do quite a lot of work on, and that's inclusive and accessible. And by this we mean obviously the basic web accessibility guidelines, so making sure that things are technically accessible, but also making sure that if we're running an event like this, I should have gone through this at the start actually, there's a closed caption button at the bottom, and that's why we use Google, because it's a really easy, accessible visual way of seeing the captions. Plus they're the best I've found at understanding my mongrel of an accent that's come from gradual travel down the country. But it's also making sure that when you have your application forms, asking people, do they need any adjustments to be made? And it's about having open conversations and being aware that you don't know everything and that other people have different experiences, and trying to share that. Managing risks, it's risk management. It's not sexy, but it's necessary, and there are ways that we can do it, and kind of bring it into a habit and a ritual, to help make it less of the forgotten. Quite often we do a risk management review, see all of these high risk issues, write all our mitigations, and then never come back to it. So how do you kind of embed those into your ways of working? And then project planning, when you're working in that iterative cycle and things can change, and you're kind of at the start of a project and you don't know where things are going to head, you need to be quite agile with the way that you work. And so what we'll do is kind of look about how you can project plan in different digital ways. And just to note that some people will need to know about everyone needs to know about each pillar, but some people need to know more about each pillar. So it may be that if you're kind of more on the fundraising side, actually your kind of focus would be on that really being data driven in how you approach new campaigns. If you're working in diversity, equity and inclusion, your focus would be more on that inclusive, accessible and being people led. All of them are supportive and all of them are necessary, but you will need to deep dive into some of them dependent on the work that you do. So on the course, you'll learn why each pillar is important and how it can help you. You will learn about how you can transfer your new knowledge into more than a digital project. So you don't need to be building a website or building an app or creating any tools. The way that we look at things is how can you do this in kind of tiny little adjustments? Is there something that you're working on that can be significantly impacted by a small amount of user research and talking to people? Is there something that you've been doing that you wish you had a bit more data on? How can you embed those things and embed those learnings? It's all about what you need to make sure is in place. So those kind of foundations are there, and where to begin with the next challenge that you face. So we'll learn as in 6 hour-and-a-half or 90-minute sessions. They'll be live and recorded so you can look at them back. There will be activities to work on in between and during the sessions, and there'll be group and one-to-one coaching available. So we'll do regular group coaching where you can kind of pop in and share your frustrations, or if it's something that's a little bit more sensitive that you don't want to share as a group, you can there's that one-to-one offer as well. And we'll also have a peer learning WhatsApp group. The aim with that is that everyone who is on this journey will have very, very similar questions, and it needs to be more about building a community. So that's the aim there. And I found when you're on a learning journey, it's really helpful to kind of share that with other people. So the next version of this course, it starts on the first week of September, and it will run on Wednesday. So that's the first Wednesday of September, which is the 6th, I think. I should have added this to the slides. It will start on Wednesdays from 5 p.m. So every time we run this, we're going to run it at different points of the day. So it may be that the 5 p.m. slot doesn't work for you, and please let me know if that's the case. The cost is set at £750 per person. However, if that is a real issue for you, if you're looking to fund this yourself, or you work for a tiny little organisation, please email and we'll probably be able to work something out for you. So just before we go into Q&As, this is a nice little quote from Anwen, who did the first trial of this course. And she said that the course had a significant impact on the overhaul of her organisation's digital and online offering. Mainly, delivering new ways of thinking and problem solving. So it's not about helping you with one individual issue. It's about creating a new way for you to kind of build and continue to improve. Does anyone have any questions? I will stop the recording now, just because I know that some people might have more questions that they don't want on YouTube, for example.